Welcome to Conversations with My Real Friends. I'm Jennifer. I'm here with my friend Jose Luiz Morales. Jose is a real estate agent here in Ventura County, and we've done some business together. We deal with problem children. So when you have a deal, right? So you've got a deal, you've got a buyer and a seller, we've got a contract, and now something's gone wrong. Someone doesn't like something, something's amiss, disclosures a concern. How do you manage when we've got problems arising mid-transaction?
So it's funny, I tell my son this because as a 6-year-old, sometimes you have challenges with your younger brother, sometimes you have challenges with your mom, sometimes you have challenges with your dad, or even friends at school, and I tell him that you can solve anything through communication. And then I'll ask him, like, how do you solve any problem out there? And he goes, communication. And a lot of times I find that if you don't communicate, the problem gets bigger.
Yes.
And in some cases, I find that people avoid any conversations that are difficult. And in some cases, people imagine different scenarios in their head that aren't actually true. They'll say, oh, this person did this because of this. So if you don't communicate with the person, a lot of times you allow them to develop their own narrative as to what's going on. I'll give you an example. We had a property fall out of escrow recently, and the contingencies weren't removed at that point. And the client was starting to imagine that we had something negative to do with it. And instead of avoiding the conversation with it, he was texting me, I called them up. I'm gonna talk to you about it. And we're gonna basically talk about it. Talked about it, understood, had a second conversation. Then I sent them a recap of everything that we talked about in writing. Therefore, if he wanted to verify everything with timelines or how everything played out, he was able to do it. The result was that he rejected a request for repairs. And he was like, no, I'm not moving forward on this. I only want to offer this. So the reality is that once we offered clarity, then he was able to really understand how that decision impacted the transaction. So I would say that what we do whenever we experience any sort of legal or any sort of conflict is we talk to the people. We don't hide behind a text message. We don't hide behind an email. If the client wants it in writing, we're happily willing to send it to them in writing because we've got nothing to hide. But I feel that a lot of times if you're able to communicate with people, it solves anything. I teach my employees that, I teach my agents that, and I also teach my children that. So I believe that with good communication, you can solve anything. Second layer to that question is we have attorneys that we have on staff. So meaning that whenever we have any sort of question, we have the right legal professionals, and I don't mind paying for it. And I've said that to everybody I know because I can easily jump on a car legal hotline and it's going to take me an hour to get through somebody, or I can email somebody that I trust, that I know has my best interest 100%, and I can get an answer very, very quickly versus having to wait that long time. So now what I've developed in my business is I have very good people in all aspects of a real estate transaction that are experts in their specific field that I can reach out to them for anything. So I would say proactive communication and having the right people on your team is the way that you deal with the different challenges that come with real estate.
Because not every deal is going to be saved, right? No. There are deals, some deals are going to fall out. And I always say, especially when a disclosure issue is the reason a deal falls out, my rule is, if someone says, should I disclose, I don't care what the next word is, the answer is yes.
100%.
And if that blows up the deal, wouldn't you rather that happen before we're closed versus after close of escrow, where now now they've found out whatever it is and now it's a big deal to them? Because look, disclosure is a weird thing. Something I care about, you could care nothing about, right? So, when there's a problem, communication, being upfront, being straightforward, always going to be the best answer, even if that particular deal doesn't go through.
Not only that, but I think it affects you more in the I've seen where agents will ruin the reputation for a commission check. And I think a lot of it has to do with, unfortunately, the average agent only sells about 3 to 4 homes a year. or in some cases, some high percentage of agents don't sell a single home a year. Right. So when there's a high dollar amount and your rent
is due,
depends on that, it's very challenging for them to make the right decision. So I think just being in a position where you're financially good, you won't ever put yourself in a position like that. And it's also good for the consumers. Like sometimes consumers don't realize that the person that they're dealing with is behind on their rent, and they're gonna give you different advice than somebody who's not in need of money as well too. So
I mean, as long as the agent is representing what's in the best interest of the client, you're gonna be fine. When that stops happening, you're not.
Well, even in our industry, I've talked to different agents. They're like, "Oh, this has to close because if not, I'm going to be behind on this, or I'm going to be behind on that." And what I tell them, I'll tell them straight up. I'll be like, "That sounds like a personal problem."
Yeah. You gotta focus on your client.
Yeah, that sounds like a personal problem. You know.
So, if someone has a deal, wants to talk to you, how can they reach out?
Phone number 805-228-4671. Email mrg@moralesregroup.com. Instagram, Jose Luiz Morales.
Thank you for joining me, Jose.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of Conversations with My Real Friends. We'll see you soon.